Welcome to Rotten Potatoes with Bryce.
And Forrest. We're here reviewing your favorite movies, video games, and TV shows.
On this week's episode, we are going to talk about Apple TV's movie called Finch. So, um, I think Tom Hanks has to have a deal or something with Apple because he did the ship one last year.
Hmm. Maybe.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping
Possible.
he keeps cranking out these movies because it was Greyhound, I think is what it was called last year. It was
Oh,
really
okay.
good. And then we had Finch this year. So they're both bangers. I think they're really good.
Finch was really,
Um,
really good. I have no
yes,
complaints. I don't.
it was it was definitely a strong movie.
Yeah.
And so I know a whole lot of people don't have.
Apple.
Sorry, did you get that notification?
No.
Oh, it says that it can't stream on Twitch.
Oh.
Um, so yeah, I know a whole lot of people don't have Apple TV, which is only like $5 a month, so it's not too much. So
Hmm.
um, it's got the morning show. It's got C on there. It's got Mythic Quest. It's got Greyhound, and it's got Finch, and then it's
Right.
got The Shrink Next Door, which is such a good TV show. So Apple's been putting out quite a bit, quite a good set of movies and stuff like that. So if you haven't already, thought about subscribing to Apple, I would definitely give that um,
Yeah.
to go do it. So as we get in, so let's focus on Finch. I keep talking about everything else, so let's
Yeah.
let's focus on Finch.
Yeah.
Um, so Finch it's got Tom Hanks, the amazing Tom Hanks. That is the only physical person that's in 99% of the movie.
Right.
Um, and then you have his trusty steed, Dewey,
Hmm.
which is like a
Right.
little automated shopping cart.
Basically a
And then,
Wally.
yeah, and then he builds his own best friend, which he doesn't. They don't name themselves right away, so
Hmm.
he's just Robo Gluck Gluck 9000 or whatever he is. So
Yeah. But I think it's interesting because he's this old scientist, right? And like he's used to being alone. He doesn't like to be with people. So like the end of the world's kind of a nice place for him to be in weird ways, you know? Because robots don't really have human emotions or problems that they would normally have, right? And so Dewey's perfect because he doesn't talk. He just kind of does whatever he's told
beep
and
boop beep
kind of
beep.
follows around and does what he's told and does whatever he needs to do. Um, but the new robot he made actually has like the ability to think and learn and do things. And so it's a whole different world for him that he's kind of created for himself here.
Yeah, and so when he started building the new robot, I thought it was so because at first, I was like trying to figure out, but then it clicked real fast that he was cutting up all those books and like throwing them through the copier, so then it like
Hmm.
scans up to be knowledge,
Right.
um, for this new robot. And so I
Hmm.
thought that was such an interesting, fact that they took the time, to kind of showcase that, like where all
Right.
of his knowledge is coming from, and he was just going to be a walking supercomputer.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. And basically, you have this robot that is being built by Tom Hanks, and he also has a dog. So his dog is like the other character in this movie, right? And it's just called Dog,
Yep,
but
dog.
he's also got a name called Goodyear, which we'll learn about a little later, why it's Goodyear, but he only calls him Dog. And the end of the world right now is kind of this wasteland. You can't go outside because of the radioactive. There's no ozone left. Basically, there's like a few parts of it that are still there. He calls it Swiss cheese, basically, because there's just tons of holes in the ozone. There's a sun flare that took out a good majority of everything. So that's
Yeah.
why it's the way it is now.
And so he was working, at a science facility that was, I think it was wind turbine technology is, part of it. And so he's able to operate out of this, this kind of like Mount Cheyenne type deal where it's just like a deep bunker underground. He's able to operate because of the wind turbines and whatnot. So it's like any zombie movie that you can think of. So he goes out and he scavenges, but obviously there's not any zombies. But he goes out and scavenges and takes apart and sees stuff where it shows him marking X's with like the spray paint and everything, trying to
Mhm.
take care of all of that and making sure it's, oh, I've already checked this place and whatnot. So he goes from place to place, but um, he's got like this full on like spacesuit
Yeah.
that's got, he can protect it from the heat because like the heat's also like 140
Mhm.
degrees. So like it'll burn you like right away and stuff like that. So, or it might even be hotter than that. I don't remember what temperature he said, but super hot. Like it can fry your skin if you're just even out there for a second. So
Right.
it reminds me a lot of that Will Smith movie. Where he's in New York City, Legend, I Am
I Am
Legend.
Legend. Yeah. Okay.
Like where those monsters come out and they get burned right away from the sun,
Right.
kind of
Yep.
like a vampire-esque type deal. And so it just kind of cracks me up because, um, he explains it several times, which is it's crazy because you don't see anybody, um, minus one time, throughout the whole show. Um, but he talks heavily about how there's lurkers that come out at night because it's the only time
Right.
that they can, because none of them are scientists, so they don't have these full-on spacesuits. So
Right.
he is safe with himself being an older man that he can walk out and experience that sunlight and whatnot. So I thought that was cool that they threw that in there, which granted, you only see that piece like one time.
Right.
But I watching this movie, like, so I was like way too young when Castaway came out. I think it was Castaway.
Oh
It was
yeah.
So I definitely cried during the Wilson scene when he fell off the boat. My
Yeah.
my brother made fun of me.
Well
I was so heartbroken over Wilson, going into the ocean.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I watched this movie, it was like this is like a modern day
Castaway.
steampunk, whatever that sand movie is. That oh, what's that sand movie? It's like apocalyptic.
I don't know.
Um, they made a remake recently. Oh fuck, I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, so it just seems like post-apocalyptic steampunk. So it's just like the
Mhm.
steampunk version of Castaway.
Yeah.
Because Tom Hanks by himself,
Right.
hanging
But
out.
what's kind of cool is like it is like a post-apocalyptic like end of the world movie, but it's not so much focused on the end of the world. It's more focused on like him building a relationship with this robot and like helping it learn what to do, what not to do, how to behave, how to react to things, and the rules to survive, and all these different things. It's basically a child and a giant robot,
Yeah.
and just doesn't know much, doesn't understand why things are the way they are, and so
I thought it was so funny when like he did the papers to install the Winnebago on his program. I was like, what the
yeah.
fuck? Like that is such a random tidbit of information. Like why would the robot need to learn about a Winnebago? Um,
And then we know why.
and so and the sad part is so like he's been locked up in the city for however many years that he's been there. So his food supply is getting very, very slim, and so you can
hmm
see that he's brittle boned and whatnot of not really making it too much longer. And so and he has this dog named Goodyear Dog. I mean, he just calls him Dog. That
hmm
goes out with him and whatnot. Um, so he's designing this robot, trying to get it taken care of. He's trying to get everything downloaded, and then all of a sudden he gets alert. Like his he rolls around in like a loader truck, which I
hmm
thought was pretty funny that it's a big boy.
Right. From
And
like a
like a
mine site.
sandstorm came in and it kind of showed the fact of like him being able to like come back and get out in time, like how dangerous the world is. So
Right.
it's not just like it's not normal weather whatsoever. I mean, it's giant sandstorms, monster like lightning storms. I mean, everything is like upgraded to the umpteenth
hmm
um, power there. And
Right.
so, um, it shows him coming in and trying to get out and get back into the facility in time. And so that was kind of a cool piece of doing all that. And then
hmm
um, it's cool to me. It's not cool to you. It's not cool to like anyone that watches it, but it was cool to me. So he takes off his uniform that last time before that sandstorm he comes in, and on his T-shirt it says Estes Rocket Science Club, I think is what it says, or Estes Rocketeering, or Estes Rocketeering, which is Estes Rockets, which is what Atticus and I build all the time. It's Estes,
Mm.
which is founded in Colorado, but it's a very old. It's like the name for model rocket companies
Right.
back in the day.
Okay.
And so the fact that he had like an Estes Rocket Club
That's cool.
T-shirt was pretty cool.
Yeah, there are a couple of cool like throwbacks like that because he was also wearing a St. Louis Blues jersey because where he was St. Louis apparently,
Yeah,
and so he's wearing a Blues jersey and it's kind of a callback to that, and it was kind of nice. And so it's cool they like connected those things in there. I'm sure there's other things we missed that we just didn't know about or didn't
right.
understand the connection or whatever. Um, but then like we get him out on the road here because the storms have become too dangerous for him to stay where he's at, and his resources are too low to stay as well. So he has to go out on the road in the Winnebago that's updated in this crazy war Winnebago, and it's outfitted like all over the place. So
Is it his first stop? Was it Colorado or what was it? I can't remember where his first stop was. I think it was in Colorado from St. Louis.
I think they stopped in Colorado
It was at the hospital,
when
the Denver
the
hospital.
hospital was. Yeah.
Okay, so in reality, that trip is probably like 15 to 20 hours.
Hmm.
And so that dude made it in a Winnebago in like less than a day. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like obviously they did not
Well,
take it into consideration. That
in
is
bet
a long. Did you have 5 hours to Kansas City?
whoa, because like in between there, they had to stop because a tornado caught up to them. And so they had to stop and bolt the Winnebago down and survive a tornado. And then they take off again, and like he's too sick to like drive anymore. And so like that's why the robot's driving. And his name's Jeff, by the way. The robot's name's Jeff. He chose his own
Yeah,
name. We don't know why he's Jeff, but he's Jeff. Um,
my
he tried
name's
to call
Ian.
himself multiple other things like Napoleon, and he was like, nah, 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 call yourself something original, something short, easy. He said Jeff.
Yeah,
Um, But now the robot's driving because Tom Hanks is sick. He's been exposed to radiation for too long, and
yeah, he's got a bunch of
he's
radiation
dying.
poisoning.
Um, and so he knows
Okay, so
this, but
before the
Jeff does not.
robot takes over, let's stop at the gas station.
Yeah.
This keeps popping up about Twitch. I don't give a shit. If it's not streaming on Twitch, I don't really care. I really don't care. Um, so he's still driving at this point, and they go to the gas station because they're going to try to rate it to see, if there's anything possibly left.
Hmm.
And so at this point, you really don't understand the whole heat side. Like he talks
Right.
about it, but he even tells him before he gets out. He tells Jeff that like dogs cannot go out in the sunlight. I cannot go in the sunlight. Nothing like you can because you're metal. Like you will
Right.
survive, but we cannot go out in the sunlight. And so then he explains it to him. Like he sticks out his hand and it already starts to like boil. So he like pulls it back in. It's like a vampire
Right.
type deal. And so they're the dog and Finch are inside the gas station scouting, and Jeff decides to take it upon himself because literally Jeff had to learn to walk. Like this is
Yeah.
like it is a child in a robot body. So like that's
Right.
what you gotta like. And that's what I loved about the whole situation is that like he was ever growing, his emotions were growing. Like it was crazy. I mean, it's such a great fucking movie.
It's really good.
And so they're so he's going in there and they're ravaging. They're trying to figure out stuff. And then Jeff decides to take it upon himself to like learn how to drive while he's in there and drives it away from the gas station. And so Jeff or Finch comes out and he's like freaking out because like literally like it's probably maybe 20 feet, maybe 10 feet. I mean it's not a crazy amount of space, but for him to walk even that far, he would burn
Right.
up and die.
Right.
So like trying to get Jeff, who doesn't know how to fucking drive to like to get there was fantastic.
And
I
it
thought
was
that was
so
such a funny
funny
scene.
because like he like pops his head out of the RV and he's like, "Hey guys, like,
I'm driving.
sorry." And then he's like, "It's fine. Get my suit. Get it back to me, and I'll go get it, and it'll be fine." And he goes in, and he starts driving the RV immediately, and he backs it up to the gas station.
It was great. It was absolutely great.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's just a funny piece because there's a lot of humor that's thrown into it. So like originally, you think a robot just thinks like linear,
Hmm.
but then like you can see how much emotion is came
Right.
up and stuff like that. And so after that, after they get back, then that's when he kind of passes out and he can't drive. So then in his knowledge banker, I think maybe Finch said something about a hospital to him. And so he programs it in his mind of, the nearest big hospital, which is in Denver, and they go there,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that the next stop?
Yeah, I think they stop in Denver, and Jeff goes into the hospital. He takes Dewey with him, and he's just trying to find like rations and medicine and stuff like that, things they need.
Because Finch is like passed out right now, like
Right.
he's still not
Finch
awake.
is unconscious because he's very sick and hasn't had probably a lot of food or water or anything at this point. Um, so Jeff takes it upon himself as well to do this and go in here, and he's constantly repeating these rules that Finch had told him earlier about like how to survive and what to do. Um, and then eh, Finch wakes up and realizes this is happening. Tries to go in and help them out and get out of there because he knows they shouldn't be there. It's this huge indoor place that's dark all the time, so people are definitely living there. Um, and
And you
so
see like everything that's bordered up, like the newspapers on the
right,
windows, so you know that people are living there. Like
right.
it's definitely like it shows.
And so we have our Wilson moment of this movie where Dewey dies to a bear trap that's got food on it. He was trying to grab the food for Finch, and it just snaps him in half and kills him. Um, it's really sad. I was actually really sad when Dewey died. He wasn't a huge
Yeah.
character or anything, but it was really sad because it was like one of the few
Like it
people
was one of
or
Finch's friends. Like it was
right.
his
It
only friend.
was
Like that was what was so
he
sad.
was the Wilson at that point, right? He had been around for a long time, but
Yeah.
so Finch gets Jeff out of there, and they leave, and they get followed. Um, and
That part
they're
was even sadder. Like it's just getting worse and worse.
they're running away, and they end up hiding under an underpass and ripping off like the sun panels on the roof.
Solar panels, yeah.
So they have like no way to like get electricity or like power to their RV at this point, and so things have really taken a turn for the worse at this point. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when Dewey dies is kind of where you get the downfall of the whole movie. Like
right,
that's where it starts to decline. I mean, there's like a kind of a comedic up like lifting when Jeff finds his jacket and likes his jacket, so he
right, right.
starts sporting that jacket around, which I thought was
Hmm.
pretty funny. But yeah, at that point, really, I mean, Finch is like in and out of consciousness. Like he's not. I mean, he's very unstable. So like they go down that. It's downpouring rain, and they have this car following him, and he's telling punch it, Chewy, and like trying to get him to go, and they get under that bridge, and
Yeah.
you can tell it's like paranoia because he knows that he can't survive like a younger person attacking, and so that's
Hmm.
why he wanted to save that dog and take care of that dog, and so
Right,
um try to go under the underpass, and that's he didn't calculate the whole, which in Finch's normal mind, and he even starts telling himself that, where I think he fucked up at the was it at the gas station or it was at the time after that where he says you fuck up once, Finch, and you're dead, and he's like I should have known this, like you can't fuck up around here, like I can't do that anymore.
right,
um and so like he even tells you can kind of see his mind going, and that he's not as sharp as he's been, like he's
right,
starting to rapidly decline in health. And so it's very sad. It's extremely sad.
right.
And so they get back on the road, and the whole reason. Do we know yet why he's going to California?
No, not really at this point. I don't believe. Maybe kind of learn a little later on.
Okay, so they get back in the RV, and they just keep heading west.
Yeah.
Um, and so you see him breaking down and falling apart because he knows that everything's ruined. He doesn't have the solar panels to charge the RV anymore. He's getting weak. He's making all these mistakes that he's not going to make it to see like tomorrow. Like I think he keeps thinking in his mind like today's the day
Right.
I go.
Hmm.
Um, so it's tough, rough,
Hmm.
absolutely rough.
And so we get to a point where Jeff is driving. Uh, he's been asking a lot of questions, trying to get answers out of Finch this whole time, and try and like patch up the relationship at this point a little bit. Um,
Which, yeah, that's the
and
sad part. Anytime that Finch gets mad, he outlashes at Jeff and
right,
blames it on Jeff. Which,
right,
I mean, some of it is Jeff's fault, but you got to think about it. He's like a 5-year-old, and that's why he
right.
keeps asking those questions. Like he's trying to learn.
Hmm.
He's trying.
Yeah.
whenever he fucks up, it's all with all great intention. Like he never, as
Right.
the robot, ever been like malicious or like
Right.
purposely like an idiot. Like it's all just been because he doesn't know.
Mhm.
Because really, I think Finch was trying to like build Jeff for the long haul, and then I think with the storm and his health declining, like instead of being a year to build it, it was like a month or two. So I
Right.
mean, like I think there's a lot that I don't think Jeff realized or Finch realizes that sometimes when he gets pissed
Yeah.
because it's an underdeveloped robot. I mean, granted, he got the robot where it was at, which is just a feat within itself. But
Mhm.
still, I mean,
Right. And, it's funny, Jeff hits a butterfly and kills it, and he's like, "I didn't mean to do it, I didn't mean to do it, like, I'm sorry, like, and he's like, "What is it?" And, like and so Finch is like, "What the hell? That shouldn't be alive, there's no way I could survive out here, it's a little butterfly, like, it would've been roasted, right?" And so he, like, sticks his hand out of the RV, and he's like, "Oh my god, like, we can be outside here." And they're like, "What?" Like, it's actually a piece of ozone that's not shredded, it's
yeah,
actively there, and they can kinda go outside and enjoy it a little bit, which is what they do.
yeah, which is Jeff being. And that's what I'm saying. Like it was never malicious. Like and Jeff was so innocent. Like when he killed that butterfly, like he
Mhm.
was heartbroken
Right.
that he killed the
It's like, "Oh
butterfly.
my god, what is this? I'm sorry."
Which every day we drive, we kill bugs. I mean, you can look at the front of my grill and it's just slaughtered with bugs with the amount of
Yeah.
traveling that I do. Um, and so I don't know. It's quite hilarious. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, something's up that the butterfly was there because
Mhm.
at this point it was literally like dune. Like everything was a sand planet. Like there's no vegetation, there's no nothing. It was just
Yeah.
all sand.
Yep.
Um, and so yeah, so they get and they see the butterfly, and so they decide to like perch up like a little um,
Umbrella.
umbrella,
Yep.
and and then you see Tom Hanks like dress up in a beautiful like sharp white suit,
Yeah.
and just just kind of just it was odd, it was strange, like like nothing was really explained at this point of like why what was going on,
Yeah.
and so as curious as Jeff can be, he asked him, and they talked, and that's when it's like starts getting sad. I'm like this was my Wilson moment. Like granted, like I did like get real sad when
Dewey.
what's his face died, Dewey
Yeah.
died. But this was like I was like, and Atticus started bawling. I was like, I thought this was gonna be a good movie, but we're just both crying. Like it was a tough piece. But then he starts to explain that his dad lived out in California, which was kind of fucked up because dad was like a deadbeat, so he,
Right.
wasn't even around ever, anyways. But so he bought this white suit before the pandemic or before whatever. I guess we're so used to saying the pandemic, but
Yeah.
before the apocalypse, and he was gonna go meet his dad one day. And he was gonna be dressed up in this nice suit and just pretty much tell him, "Fuck you! Like this is what I've accomplished with my life. This is, kind of." And it was cool. Like I'm rich. I'm knowledge based. Like I know anything and everything. Like I'm a great
Yep.
scientist. Pretty much fuck you for not helping me. And then obviously it turned out as everyone died, that um, you're gonna try to see if he's still alive out there, some little pipe dream and stuff.
Mhm.
And he has and I forgot to say this, and he has like a stack full of postcards of like different places and pictures and whatnot. And
Right.
Jeff asked about those and everything. And it was so interesting when he was like, Jeff, like every single bolt, nut, and screw that is in that bridge, but you still don't know the beauty of like what
Mhm.
that bridge is capable of,
Right.
which I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it was definitely sad because he was going over all the postcards saying kinda like, "That's kind of places I wanted to go, and go see and do," and never really did it, and that's also kinda like what this is about too. It's like he's trying to go to the bridge and see it, and kinda be this last, like, I did go do something, and just doesn't quite make it, and
Yeah, because he talks about how he's never left St. Louis. Like he's born and raised, and
right.
he's always been in St. Louis.
Yep. And so, this point, he's getting pretty weak and not doing so well, and he's kinda seeing that Jeff and Dog are doing better together, and because up until this point, Dog has hated Jeff completely, like, barking at him, like, not liking him, not going near him, and just kind of not sure of it, which makes sense. It's a giant robot. I mean, it's a dog. Come on,
Yeah.
like it's not gonna like it. Um, but he's kind of warming up to him a little bit, playing catch with him or fetch, and so I think that helps Finch a little bit and think like, okay, like maybe it's gonna be okay. But
Yeah. And so, he kind of explains to him, pretty much his life. Like that's the first time he opens up about his life.
hmm
And then at that point, he goes into how he found Goodyear, which is like such a sad, terrible
hmm
moment. So essentially, like there was these raiders, and they used this little girl as a kind of a bait to get someone to like go and kind of talk to her and whatnot. It's from my understanding, right?
mm, I think it was just this mother and daughter in a grocery store, like looking for food and like trying to scavenge stuff, and these guys pull up and are basically like, "Give us all your stuff, like give it to us now, or we're gonna kill you." And they kill them and take their stuff. Um, and he finds a backpack over there. It was a little girl's backpack, and that's where he found Goodyear.
I
And
thought they
pile of
ran like a
tires.
bait scheme early too. Did they run like where she looked like a innocent little girl that was stranded by herself, and then like the mom came and like
He said
robbed
that
her?
like he couldn't trust anything because you never know what people are capable of, and
Yeah.
like that's what he was talking about. But
Oh, okay,
it
okay.
was just a mom and daughter, and they just got killed. So
Yeah. And
um,
so yeah, it was super sad. So he found Goodyear, and then he took Goodyear in. And so, like you said earlier, he was a person that didn't like people, didn't care for people, even
mhm,
before the fucking shit went south.
mhm,
And so he sees that he's full of radiation, that he's dying. He's probably got cancer. He's probably got all sorts of shit in him because of all the radiation poisoning that he's gotten.
mhm,
And so he literally designed Jeff to take care of Dog. Because like rule number one was like don't harm humans. Rule number two was I can't remember, but rule number three supersedes rule number one and two, and that was make sure the dog survives. Essentially, like
mhm.
be whatever the dog needs to be.
Right.
And so he's sitting there on this, little fucking what are those chairs called? Like lawn chairs, and just throwing the ball back and forth for for Goodyear. And then eventually got Jeff, where Jeff started throwing the ball for Goodyear.
Mhm,
Um, and then he kind of just went to bed and never woke up, and it was so
mhm.
sad, and it was the worst thing in the world.
Yep. And then end of the movie, Dog and Jeff kind of take off down the road and end up at the bridge and get out and say, "Yep, Finch was right. This is pretty great." So
Yeah, and the fact that
sad.
Jeff wrote in the dog and the
Right.
Finch and himself into that picture
Yeah.
and chained it to the fence. I thought that
Yeah.
was so, and
It
it
was nice.
reminded me. So like that fence reminded me of 28 Days Later, like when he wakes up from his coma in the hospital and he goes to the board and looks up all the like, oh, this person's missing, this
Oh,
person's
right.
missing. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
kind of like that piece.
yeah.
That's exactly what that bridge held. Was like, hey, we went down to Manchester or Manfield. We went here. Like, we're still alive. Come
Mhm.
find us here and come find
Yeah.
us there. So I thought that was a pretty cool, piece as well. That
But yeah, it's interesting too because up to this point from the spot they hit, the ozone seems to have been holding up this entire time because him and the dog have been in and out of the Winnebago multiple times and like playing catch and everything's fine. And so they're going into the San Francisco and seems to be covered from what we can tell.
it's all
So
the
there might
smog, I
be a
guess.
lot of people there. Yeah. Smog saved them, dude. But I mean, like
Yeah.
overall as a movie, very emotional, very fun, very well written. Like I can't praise it enough. It was great. Like I have no problems with the movie. Like it played out beautifully, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of humor. There's a lot of sadness. There's a
Mhm.
lot of storytelling. I
Mhm.
mean, there was technically only two characters that entire movie, and
Right,
it
really.
read so well. I mean, it was such a good, like, kept you in your
Yeah.
seat. Like,
I
you're,
mean, and Tom Hanks did such a good job, like, basically acting in a movie by himself.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
exactly.
like, think about like that. Like, that's so difficult to do. Like, only a few actors have done that in the past, and they're just
And
like,
he's done it before and can do it again.
right. He's one of the few that's done it well and done it good. So he was ready, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a really good movie. I suggest anybody that thinks it's possibly a good movie just to go check it out because it's well worth the watch. So, but yeah, if we gave it a number, I would give it a 10 because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was definitely 10 out of 10. It's a great movie. It's fantastic. I would literally like sub to Apple TV for 1 month, and then you can watch,
Right.
all the other shows that are on there. But definitely just get in there and watch it for
Yeah,
the
I mean, it's
shows.
basically worth paying that. It's basically like renting the movie,
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
month.
You rent a movie for like $2, $3.
Yep.
Spend an extra $2, you can watch a few other movies.
Mhm.
That Apple TV has to offer. So it's definitely worth a shot. I mean, it's a great show.
Mhm.
But yeah, so if you made it this far, we thank you and congratulate you. Uh, but there's going to be a link tree in the bio. And if you found us on Facebook or YouTube and you wanted to listen to us through, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're on there. We're on Stitcher. We're on Pandora. We're on anywhere and everywhere that you were to get your podcast. We are there. So no excuses. You can listen to us wherever you want. Um, that being said, also on that link tree, you have historical potatoes, which is just as cool. It's where we go and rate historical events that are not too terribly known. That's out there. That's just kind of oddball history stuff that's not really taught. And so we find the joy in finding random shit out there. So
Yep.
I think we're 11 episodes in at this point. So go out and listen to that. We are constantly building that library. We have both of our Twitch streams on there. We have where you can save money with Honey. It's a kind of a browser extension where it automatically clips coupons for you if you go ahead and go through that process. Help support the channel as well. If you want to make your own podcast, we're in there, and you can get a $20 Amazon gift card by signing up through us. It kind of shows more support for the channel. And you have Norton LifeLock. So if you're trying to secure your new PC or laptop, we're there. We can um, go use our referral code at that point and help us help you. Um, did I miss anything there?
No, I think you hit just about everything. We're everywhere you want to listen to us. So just pick your poison and just listen up. Plenty of hours of us talking and just random movies and reviews and random history. So if you ever feel like you need to hear us, anywhere you can find us is great.
100%.
But yeah,
Anyways,
thanks for listening in.
tune in next week and we'll spoil something new.
Yeah.